My counsel has advised me that I have not waived my constitutional rights under the Fifth Amendment, and on his advice, I will decline to answer any question on the subject matter of this hearing.
So you're not going to tell us who wanted to fix the problem caused by Citizens United?
On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully exercise my Fifth Amendment right and decline to answer that question.
Former IRS official Lois Lerner so far refusing to answer questions about Congress, or rather from Congress, about the targeting scandal. There are new emails released today that could mean she may soon face contempt charges. Jay Sekulow represents dozens of nonprofit organizations targeted by the tax agency. And Jay, welcome back here to HQ. The emails, you've seen them. What did they tell us?
I think the most troubling aspect of the emails is you have one where they were clearly, Lois Lerner was cognizant of the fact that this increased scrutiny might well result in litigation, which of course ultimately it has. And when you look at that and what she wrote, she slow-tracked these approval processes and these reviews because of this concern of litigation, and it may challenge their ability to control political speech, which of course was not within the IRS's purview in the first place. But it tells you, kind of gives you an insight into what she was thinking, what the leadership of the IRS was thinking as they went through this process of intentionally tracking these nonprofit applications and slowing them down because of the politics involved. And that raises, of course, a whole host of new questions, which she's not going to answer, by the way, under the Fifth, unless she's held in contempt.
The president,
because when you look at the whole scope now, we know they were working on changing the rules before, 2 years before this whole plan became public. They were doing it what they called off-plan. And now, of course, you've got the emails, which now really set forth that they knew they were under a microscope on what may well be a civil litigation, which ultimately happened.
You know, off-plan raised a lot of eyebrows because off-plan would suggest we need to take this thing offline and talk about it in person, face-to-face, or over the phone, without an email track or a type track, correct?
Precisely.
So the president said not a smidgen of corruption in that Super Bowl interview with Bill O'Reilly. Do these emails prove otherwise? Prove otherwise?
Absolutely. You've got a practice and pattern of activities now in writing that show both communication going between the IRS and the FEC, which is inappropriate. That should not have been allowed, about the situation with Citizens United. You've got emails coming out from Lois Lerner and others, and people even in Chief Counsel's office, higher up than Lois Lerner's. That was the office I used to work in. And they are saying that they want this off-plan, as you mentioned. And then you've got this specific, very targeted idea that they may well be facing real litigation here over political speech, and we need to be cognizant of this. So I think when you put it all together, you don't have to be a tax law specialist to understand that the IRS was engaged in a pattern and practice of activities for the sole purpose of silencing a particular viewpoint. And the Supreme Court, in the cases I've handled, have always been unanimous when it came to viewpoint discrimination. The court just does not tolerate it.
Two other points here, and they are important too. I've got a minute to get through this, okay, Jay? The report suggests that she took steps to crack down on these groups. You know, what specific steps did Lois Lerner take to carry that out?
She pulled the files from the actual normal process that it would go through. She took it out of the normal process, and she put it in a special category which stopped the approvals bill, and that's the biggest right there. She actually had them freeze the application process, and that's what's caused all of the problem. That's when we first all started realizing there's a real problem here.
Well, okay, the other thing is that report says that she deliberately, or I shouldn't say deliberately, but that she misled Congress about targeting and also about her own conduct. You as an attorney trying to get to the bottom of all this, what's more effective legally now, Jay? Do you hold her in contempt? Or is there another legal avenue that would perhaps extract the answers that you're looking for?
Well, you could try a special prosecutor, but Bill, the reality is, I think you got to move forward with the contempt proceedings. She was interviewed by the Department of Justice, and the indications that we've received is that she was not under oath when she did the Q&A with the Department of Justice. So it's either a special prosecutor or she's held in contempt. She is clearly one of the key points, the key central figures in this. She's not the only one, but she clearly had an agenda, and that agenda was to silence these groups. And she was pretty effective in doing that. She's just being called on the carpet now because she's been caught, and so is the IRS.
All right, Jay, thank you so much. Jay Sekulow. We'll see whether or not they act on either one of your ideas there at the end. Jay Sekulow out of Tennessee. Thanks.
Bill, there were some